Hey, how about that for fuel mileage for the day? 11.4. And I think I was about on 550 miles. I don't think I've ever showed you my little scan gauge here. Since this was a fleet truck and had, very few gauges, I got this, and you can this shows my average for the day. This shows my instant, but since the truck's not running, it doesn't show it. Up here's water temp, boost, and that's what you can put it on 4 things, and that's what I usually keep mine on. And if you push, let's focus on my finger. Take my hand away, maybe. Hopefully it doesn't mess up. But you can, when I fill up my tank, actually that's my average for tank too, and then you can do a lot of cool things with this thing. Let's see. And then you can scan over. And these aren't right. I don't think I had, that shows max water temp, says 193, but I don't think it was that hot. That's definitely not right. How many hours are on this trip? Whenever I fill my tank up, I reset this. That's definitely not right. It says 155 miles an hour. It says 47 miles an hour average. I don't think that's right either. You can set some other things in here, what basically you've made off your trip so far, and like what you're making an hour. And I've never reset that. That was a load from a couple years ago, coming back from California, and it was one of those where you're just killing it. It was like, I don't even remember. I think it was one of those that I took up there by Middletown, Ohio, and it was a really good paying load. So I was making $180 an hour when I was operating, and then it goes back to this. But anyway, pretty cool little tool if you got a truck that doesn't have very many gauges. Sometimes it does that. I guess I could show you that. That's one of those parameters where you can see, I can't remember what the PM stands for. So you got your volts, I think that's your air coming in. Not everything has a gauge or a sensor. That's transmission temp, gallon per hour, oil pressure, load on the engine. It goes from 0 to 100. So basically when you're pushing the pedal down, if you've got it set on this, you can kind of see it go up or down. Horsepower shows how much horsepower you're using. Boost, mile per gallon, instant, mile per hour, RPM. Throttle position sensor, that's the other thing. It's a 0 to 100, shows how far you got your pedal pushed down. It's a handy tool sometimes. Kind of a coaching tool. And then we're back to water temp. And that's what I keep it on. Yeah, so I've had a couple pretty good days for fuel mileage. I'm coming out of Laredo. That's where I loaded at, and I've got a light load. I've been driving slow, of course, but just not been a whole lot of wind. Actually, I think I was up to about 11 and a half or 11.6. Sorry, long day. I left Hillsboro this morning, so I'm here. I'm right on the state line of Arkansas and Missouri. This is the way I usually go. Instead of, when I get to Sykeston, Missouri, instead of going down 55, I go straight across on 60. I guess it's 67. State line truck stop. Anyway, that doesn't matter. I gotta change this around. Look at this dog. I'm gonna bark at him. I wonder if that window's down. It looks like it is. Oh! Oh! Alright, now that I've had my fun with the dog, Yeah, I loaded this load out of Laredo and just kind of been driving slow. And it's a light load. But yeah, wind's been just really not been much wind, and this always happens. I'm the and I may throw a screenshot of it in there. I was going to do that and I forgot about it. The app I use, fuel gauges. It shows and you can set that on different things too. But what I always set it on is 90-day average, 60-day average, 30-day average, and then what my cost per mile is. I think for lifetime. I think it's 31 cents, something like that's what's my lifetime fuel cost in this truck. And yeah, but I usually in the wintertime, I usually lose about a mile a gallon, 8/10, something like that. It's hard to get really good fuel mileage in the wintertime. And I guess it's still good, in the wintertime I hover around that 9 mile a gallon, and in the summertime, I'll get it over 10. And it's a lot of times, especially if I'm running the West Coast, I know that sounds crazy, but I can average 10 pretty easy, and for 90 days, and that's probably why my our IRP and IFTA were audited, because that's in 2021. That's when I was going to the West Coast so much, and I was getting 10, maybe close to 6 months out of that year. But it gets a little. You just got so much road just to drive. That's what kills me is I do a lot of city work. I know some people say you're always light or you drive slow, but I do a lot of city work. As I mentioned, these furniture stops are usually between 10 and 15. My most has been, I've probably said that before, somewhere in the low 20s. I think it was 21, 22, 23 stops. That was a California run. But most generally they're between 10 and 15, and so I'm doing a lot of city work, and that kills your fuel mileage. So I always get better fuel mileage coming home when I've got one load and all I have to do is drive. Like today, I started in Hillsboro, Texas, and just stopped for my half-hour break, and that's the only time I stopped all day long. And I love it. These guys that are driving, 70 plus, I bet the same truck. I know I've saw 2 or 3 of them pass me. We were close to Laredo where I saw them at. They've passed me 2 or 3 times. I don't know what they're doing, but anyway, I always like to see that. Some upcoming videos. What's going to happen is, if you guys are interested in maintenance, I've got just some maintenance that I need to do to this truck. On these trucks, it's got some oil leaks, not bad, but just I don't want oil leaks. It just looks bad, and it's really not bad at all. I hate a leak in oil, and this truck's been so good it won't hurt to put a little money in it. I want it to be right if I sell it. I'm sure I will. I actually bid on some old Walmart trucks. They were 2019 on some auctions I was looking at, and they're 2019s, and they've got 247 rear ends. This one's got a 250. It's got the 12-speed automated transmission. It had an APU. Really, the next truck I get, I would like for it to have an APU. I probably wouldn't use it a whole lot, but I'd still like to do it. I've done a lot of suffering in this truck in the summertime. I won't idle. I don't care how hot it is. The only time I was ever whipped by that, I was in Needles, California, in July or August, and I couldn't take it anymore. I mean, it was 100. I remember when I came out of the big hill out of LA and hit the top up there. I think it was like 112 or 113 degrees, and normally I would never stay in Needles. I used to always, I don't even know why I did. I must have been in a hurry. Normally I would always stay in Barstow, or I would go to Kingman, but I had to stay in Needles. I ran out. anybody knows down there's a little truck stop. It's next to a Dairy Queen. If anybody's been down there, it's about the only thing down there. The low was 100, and I could not stand it any longer. I let my truck idle for a couple hours because I was just about ready to die in that thing. And the only other time, so I've had this truck, I put almost 500,000 miles on it. I've had it for almost 5 years. And the only other time was I had to go up to Cleveland in like January. And I stayed the night up there, and it was below zero, and I was afraid it wouldn't start the next morning. So I did let it idle through the night. That's the only 2 times I've ever let it idle through the night. And the one in Needles was only about 4 hours. I thought, I've got to get a few hours of sleep, or my next day is going to be horrible with no sleep all night long. So, anyway, yeah, I got off on a rant there, but no, it's something that's pretty common with these things. The cam housing's leaking. All it is an O-ring underneath that cam housing, but you got to do quite a bit of work to it. And the other thing is the fuel pass-through lines, what goes through that cam housing. They've got a rubber grommet, or whatever you want to call it, and those get stiff and hard, and the oil starts to leak through that. Those need to be replaced anyway, and so it's kind of a job for a stupid little O-ring. Like I was showing you why I did the overhead. You know, you got to get it in time. There's some alignment tools that I've got to buy. Anyway, to get it in time, you got to pull the cams out of it, and take that cam housing out. So the only thing that will be left in that is the injectors. You'll have 6 injectors sitting on top of your head, and that's it. And then all it is a stupid gasket goes on the bottom of that thing, and then I've got 6 gaskets that need to be replaced on that housing for the injectors. Yeah, I'm going to do it then because I need to do an oil change, and my clutch is messing up just a little bit. And to be honest with you, I bought this truck when it had, I think, 529,000 miles, and it was okay because when I bought it, I drove it off, as bobtailed. And then when I put a trailer to it, it just didn't feel right. And I thought, I'm going to run it a little bit, see how it acts, and we'll see what that was. It was almost 5 years ago. So this clutch has got almost 1 million miles on it. I always take off in first gear. So who knows? I mean, I don't know how it was abused the first half of its life. So anyway, this has been a great truck. I got to spend a few $1,000s on it. So anyway, I think I'm going to pour some concrete. I thought about paying somebody to do the clutch job because I don't have concrete. But I thought, I've been suffering in that gravel for a long time too. So I think I'm going to pour me a concrete slab next to my shop. And so I can do it. I mean, so we got to pull the transmission out. I'm going to do the rear main seal, new clutch. I'm going to have the flywheel resurfaced, and do the cam housing gasket, the pass-through gaskets. There's something else seemed like. But anyway, it ought to be in pretty good shape. And then when it hits its 1 million miles, I'm going to change the fluid in the transmission in the rear end. And then so when I do sell it, somebody will have a really good truck here where it won't need anything. I can probably get some more money out of it because I don't want to say, it's leaking oil here, it needs a clutch, and I just want to have it all done. I can probably get some more money out of it that way. Plus somebody who can have a real nice truck. There's really nothing wrong with it. I just want something to stay a little newer. So I've rambled on a while. Appreciate you watching, and we'll see you in the next video.